This is a demo of my 963 sequencer utility module. This is based on modules that were made by R.A. Moog around 1969 or 70 for the University of New York at Albany CEMS system. What it does is provides a bridge and interface between the 960 sequential controller, in this case because we're in Eurorack, obviously Behringer modules, and the 962 sequential switch. It performs 4 or 5 functions. One which is not visible behind the scenes is it provides direct connectivity of the 3 sequential controller outputs into the 3 sequential switch inputs. I have modified the sequential switch to free up the switch contacts on the input jacks so that these hardwired connections can still be overridden by the front panel sockets. While we're on the subject, one of the modifications made to the sequential switch is we now have an extra toggle switch here which is switching between 2 and 3 channel operation. By default, the Behringer sequential switch uses the ring contact on input 3 to switch, so if you plug in input 3 it automatically goes to 3 channel operation. Obviously I'm not going to be plugging things in here because I'm now hardwired, so I need a switch to determine what's going on. The output is just taken, of the sequential switch is taken into a quantizer and then out, driving a very simple sawtooth voice with no filtering on it. So as you can see, and we have the oscillator output going to drive the S-trig input of the envelope generator. But apart from that, we've got no patching here. So first function, well, an obvious one, there's a reset button. What the reset button does is it resets the sequential controller to step 9, which means if it's running it stops. It resets the internals of this module and it resets the sequential switch to step 3. So there we go, on step 9. So the first thing I'm going to demonstrate is auto on. What auto on does, and this can be achieved with front panel patching, but it's nice to just have it on a toggle switch. It connects the output of sequential controller 960 step 1 to the oscillator input. So as soon as I connect step 1, it starts running. Now at the moment we're only running channel 3. I'm going to manually reset it to channel 1. So at the moment we're just running along channel 1 of the sequential controller. Sequential switch is not changing channel, so if I switch to auto shift, as soon as we get to step 1, it's now what auto shift does is, again, it simply connects the output of step 1 to the shift input directly without having the need to patch it. And you've got it on switch, so I can shift or not. And again, because this toggle is up, we're just running between channel 1 and 2. So if I now do it to 3, we'll now go 3 steps. And if I switch auto shift on, we'll just keep on the same step. So quite a lot of use for performance controls there. So I'm now going to reset it. Okay. There is one other function, which is the one that, and again, as I say, auto shift can be done just simply by patching an output to the shift input. However, obviously you would need a multiple of this. If you're doing the auto on, you need and the auto shift, you're going to need to split the channel 1 output on the sequential controller using a multiple or something. But again, most of those functions I mentioned so far can be done using front panel patching. The last one, which Moog labelled multicycle, it's almost not multi-cycle. It's actually, if you engage the switch, it's single cycle. What this does is it will allow the sequencer and switch combination to run for 1 cycle and then it will automatically stop it. So I'm going to set it on 2 channel operation. We've reset, we're on channel 3 and off. So what should happen now is we'll run through 1, 2 cycles and then stop. LED comes on and we stop. Obviously get a little grace note at the end there because it resets to step 1 but then stops. That can just be overcome by careful settings of your envelope generator, etc. So if I set it to 3 step and off we go. So yeah, you always get a little almost grace note at the end because what it's doing is going back to step 1 of the sequential switch, step 1 of the sequential controller and then resetting. So what you've actually got in here, you've got a very simple circuit. There's a flip-flop and in essence an AND gate. So when we get to sequential switch step 1 and sequential controller step 1, it sets the flip-flop, the LED comes on. Nothing else happens at that point. When it gets to it again the next time, it resets the flip-flop, the LED goes off, it sends a reset stroke trigger pulse to reset the sequential controller to step 9, which stops the sequential controller, and resets the sequential switch to step 3, or sets it to step 3, ready so that the next time we go, it will flip to step 1. And again, the reset input does that manually, reset button, reset input does that manually also, and we've got that trigger out pulse available. You can take that to say step another sequential controller or another sequential switch on each cycle. So again, if I just press, because we've got auto on enabled, if I go, okay, now if I turn auto shift off, but auto on is still on. Now at this point, you can see the LED's not gone on. This hasn't, the function, multi-cycle function hasn't engaged. I need auto shift on. And then we go to step 1 on both the sequential switch and the sequential controller, and it stops. So start it again. But once it's running, turn auto shift on, and it's just going to keep cycling. So adds a lot more performance capabilities. As I say, a lot of the functions there can be achieved using front panel patching. That multi-cycle, or rather single cycle function, I haven't figured out a way, because you need some sort of flip-flop to control it, and anding of functions together. So yeah, that's the 963.